Welcome to Live United. My name is Karen Knapp, President, CEO, United Way of St. Lucie County. United Way's mission is to improve lives by mobilizing the caring power of our community. We do that through our volunteers and through our donors. And today we have with us representatives from Learn to Read. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So happy to have you here with us.
Thank you, Karen. It's good to be here.
People are always wondering, what does United Way do? I mean, they know the name. Who do you fund? So this show is to sort of give them a bird's eye view of some of the programs that we fund. Of course, this past year we had 70 volunteers making a decision on where the dollar should go. So we're happy right now that you are one of our United Way agencies. Let's talk about the mission of Learn to Read.
Okay. Frankly, the mission of Learn to Read is to give people freedom, to free them from the prison of illiteracy. We want to give hope where there has been despair, and joy where there has been sadness. Suppose for a minute that I could not read, couldn't get a job. If I could get a job, I couldn't keep it because I couldn't read instructions. I couldn't read the prescription on my medicine. I couldn't read a warning label. I couldn't get a driver's license. I couldn't hold a checking account. Even daily essentials, I would be very difficult to perform. And so what we want to do is free people from that prison and give them the freedom of being able to read. And we've been doing that in this county since 1981 when we were founded by Dorothy Brennan.
Yeah, and I see that the reason why Dorothy founded Learn to Read was because her mother couldn't read a prescription.
No, she read an article in the paper.
Oh, she read an article.
Where a mother
okay.
had mispresented medicine to a child because she couldn't read the prescription.
Yeah, I think
And Dorothy took that as a challenge and started Learn to Read in our county. And so for the past 35 years, we have dealt with hundreds and hundreds of students and tutors.
And you recently joined the board, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you work at FPUA?
I used to. I'm now retired.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm
Can't
sure
you tell with the smile on my face?
you do look more relaxed. And now you're involved with volunteering, and that's so many of our agencies look forward on behalf of people working in the community to their retirement so that they can bring them on as volunteers, and it's really great of you to do that.
Well, Karen, I've always been a big supporter of United Way, and especially when I work for something like Learn to Read and see the benefits of what United Way does, I'm even a stronger supporter.
Oh, thank you. Learn to Read, you rely on tutors, so that's volunteers in the community. Can you tell us a little bit about the type of volunteer, what you're looking for in the individual, what qualifications they might need to have?
Sure. Let me just kind of briefly describe our organization.
Okay.
We have an annual budget of about $100,000, and one of our main supporters in raising that kind of money is United Way. We have approximately 400 students in any given period of time with approximately 200 tutors. We have 300 pairings of tutor and student. And now we have a language lab, and with the advent of technology, we're able to have people self-teach. And so they go on to a program learning facility where we have one on Virginia Avenue and another one down at Morningside Library in Port St. Lucie.
So you just started that self-teaching?
In the past couple of years.
Right, right.
We use the Lauterbach method of tutoring. Each one, teach one. We believe that one-on-one is the best way to help literacy be overcome. And we use a program learning technique. We have manuals, student and tutor manuals. We progress through a series of testing to make sure they're reaching the appropriate levels. And many of our tutors, well, several of our tutors are former students who have benefited from the tutoring and now want to help others. And so our tutors come from all walks of life. They're retired business persons, there are people who are teaching in the public school system, there are nurses, anything that you can think of. We believe that if you can read, you can teach.
And the age range is 16 to
whatever. We have
retirement
grandfathers who are learning to read. If you don't mind, at this point, though, I'd like to have Orlando tell us a little bit about his story. He's been with Learn to Read for a couple of years now.
Sure.
And has a very remarkable story.
Okay. My name is Orlando Vela. I'm from Colombia. I have been living here in the United States for around 12 years. At first, I came to Weston at the Fort Lauderdale area, and after that, I came here to Port St. Lucie. I am a civil engineer. I have 2 boys and my wife, and I understand the importance that for me was to learn to improve my English, because in our country the English is a base, but no is our language. I know that English is my second language, but I always want to improve my English. In my house we spoke Spanish because we want the boys to speak Spanish, but that's not good for me because I can understand and improve my English easy for that reason. But when I stay here, I try to find something to improve my English, and I hear about Learn to Read. Luzma, a great person from Colombia, and I contact her to understand what is what can they do for my English. And unfortunately, it's a wonderful place to improve my English, and I found and I received help for the tutors. At first, one person, he lives in Minnesota, and he was amazing with me and my family. Finally, we went to like a friendship, and now it helped me with my English. It's fantastic. We can share our culture, we can share our work. It's amazing. It's amazing for me and my family right now.
And now you're a supporter of Learn to Read, is that correct?
That's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's so important, you know, when you talk about educating the adult, how it affects the child in such a positive way and the whole household.
Yes, Karen. Illiteracy is a national challenge right now in the United States. The United States Department of Education and the Illiteracy Council has concluded that about 14% of the United States population is functionally illiterate. That equates to 33 million people. And the Department of Justice has determined that there's a link between crime and literacy. 89% of young people right now in the court system are functionally illiterate. 70% of the prisoners in our penal system cannot read beyond the 4th grade level. Here in St. Mary's County, the Bureau of Educational Statistics estimates that 24% of our population can't function above the first level of literacy. With a population of 290,000, that's 70,000 people in this county that need some sort of reading instruction.
Sounds like you might need more tutors, right?
I think that's a great challenge, and we have, with only 400 students, just a bit of that puzzle. And so we need to expand, we need more tutors, we need more donors and supporters, and that's of course why we depend so much on United Way.
Many of the learners, they learn at their own speed. Some catch on quickly, and others it takes a little bit longer. Do you want to talk about a little difference there and how people should feel comfortable working at their own speed?
Well, behind our motto of each one teach one, we take everybody at the level in which we find them. Some progress very rapidly, as you just stated, and some take a slower approach because it's so much more difficult for them. We have a program learning method where we take them very gradually through all of the series that we have. Orlando is one of our more rapidly producing students who has gone very rapidly through. We now share the Wall Street Journal, articles in Time Magazine and Fortune and so forth because he's at that level. His comprehension is excellent. It's just his pronunciation and vocabulary that needs attention.
Right. You have events because all this, you know, costs money, and you have a few supporters besides United Way. Well, you have many local residents that support you, but businesses, you have Walmart, Treasure Coast Newspapers, TD Bank, and Publix.
Right. We're very fortunate to have those businesses support us. Of course, everyone in this county. If you read Luminaries, you see that we are a very giving community. Page after page in Luminaries demonstrates that our citizens are stepping forward to help others. So Learn to Read is just one of those helping agencies. We are fortunate to have those corporate sponsors, but we also have some personal sponsors, people who either have benefited from the program or have been able to witness the benefits, and they contribute on a regular basis. We also have fundraisers. We have a feast at Christmas in which we raise money by auctioning off certain items. We have a bling sale. We have a quarter auction. We have an upcoming golf tournament in July that's going to be a gator trace. And by those efforts, we hope to raise the remaining money that United Way is not able to provide for us.
Well, that sounds like you're going to be very busy. So you're probably looking for more volunteers
Always.
to do all sorts of things.
Always. We need supporters and we need tutors.
And you're looking for board members.
Yes, we're always looking for board members.
Retired, possibly you might be a board member, right?
Possible.
Well,
Karen, are you interested? Of your 1,000 other
you'd
duties?
be surprised how many
Yeah,
boards I'm on.
I'll bet.
So the bottom line is Learn to Read works to improve the lives of individuals who normally would not have had the opportunity or been given the opportunity in a more comfortable setting, which is at your place of business in Fort Pierce. But you're also talking about possibly expanding into Port St. Lucie.
Right. We need to expand in Port St. Lucie has 4 times the population of Fort Pierce, and we're underserving that large community, and that's really our next goal, is to establish a greater presence in Port St. Lucie. For those people who can't read, they're in this prison from which they can't escape. Every day is failure, failure, failure. And what Learn to Read wants to do is to give them the freedom to find success, success, success. And I think we're doing that in Fort Pierce, and we hope to do a better job in Port St. Lucie.
And you do have a place at the Morningside Library?
Yes, we do. We're very happy that the library system has helped us. We have a language lab where people can go in and self-teach. And we also have a conversational lab where we have a tutor help people in conversational methods. And we also have one-on-one learning there.
Okay, and they can just look up the phone number. They might be putting it on the screen where people can contact you. If not, they can contact United Way, and we'll be glad to help them.
Very good.
I want to thank you for being with us here today. Thank you so much. You did a
You're
terrific
welcome.
job.
Thank you.
Yes, and we're going to take a break right now and be right back.
I'm lucky. Let me help you with that. I get to do something I love. It has nothing to do with touchdowns or titles.
Everybody bring it in.
I get to play a part in the life of someone just starting out.
How many of you think homework is just as important as teamwork?
I help keep kids in school,
Good.
and that's the name of the game.
My name is Ladainian Thomason. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United.
Welcome back to Live United. My guest right now is from the American Red Cross, Sarah Ruwe. Welcome, Sarah.
Good to be here, Karen.
The mission of the Red Cross. So many people are aware of your presence in the community, and they know that it's a great organization, and they know during times of disaster, you're right there. Let's talk about the mission of Red Cross and how you're connected with the National Red Cross.
Okay. The American Red Cross prevents and alleviates human suffering in the times of emergency by empowering volunteers and the generosity of donors. So we do that in a number of ways. The Coast to Heartland chapter serving St. Lucie County is a part of one of, I think there's 162 chapters nationwide. We're one Red Cross, but we work independently and locally as far as recruiting volunteers and responding to disasters.
Red Cross really redesigned their whole organization to make it more effective and efficient. Let's talk a little bit about that. That's very interesting.
It is. So when I started with the Red Cross about 13 years ago, there were like 2,000 chapters. There were multi-chapters within counties, and these 2,000 chapters did business 2,000 different ways and had 2,000 different payrolls, 2,000 different IT structures, et cetera, et cetera. So we under one umbrella as a 501c3, we decided that that was really not very efficient. So the national organization has pulled like the IT and HR and all the administrative functions into one umbrella so that we locally can spend our time delivering services to the local community. So this county is part of the Coast to Heartland chapter, which covers Indian River, St. Lucie, Highlands, and Okeechobee County. And we, in turn, are part of the South Florida region, which is the 13 southernmost counties in the state of Florida.
Right, and your chapter covers the St. Lucie County, Fort Pierce, Port St. Lucie, and the St. Lucie Village and all that. And you have programs that you provide, and they are available to residents throughout the year. Let's talk about some of those programs.
Sure. So first and foremost, which a lot of people don't understand, is that we are a disaster response organization, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Everyone remembers Francis, they remember Jean, they remember Wilma, even though we're more than 10 years out on those. But what they don't remember is the fact that we responded to a fire in Fort Pierce or a fire in Port St. Lucie in the last 3 or 4 weeks. We get up 24/7, and it's all volunteers, get up 24/7, go to those homes, meet with those people, and meet their emergency needs, food, clothing, shelter. We'll replace eyeglasses, prescriptions. We'll let them talk with nurses, and if they need some mental health, we have counselors who will talk to them. Then we work with agencies that are other United Way agencies like Mustard Seed, Salvation Army, Goodwill, and other organizations to help them get back to their normal routines with food, housing, bedding, clothing, and we help them replace all that through our referrals.
And you depend heavily on volunteers.
We do.
There are many people who I've met from the Red Cross who will proudly say, well, I'm not employed, I'm a volunteer. Let's talk about the types of people you look for or who are attracted to the type of positions that are available with the Red Cross.
Great, sure. We have about 400 active volunteers here locally, and in the South Florida region, about 3,300 volunteers. 94% of our workforce is volunteers. We're a volunteer-led organization. We like volunteers who are willing to get up and get down and get their hands and feet dirty, or those who just would like to really help out and come answer phones. Our disaster action team members are the ones that get out of bed in the middle of the night, and we give them all the free training that they need. We have folks who drive our response vehicles. We have folks who do bulk distribution, so they'll help out after a big event, handing out food, water, blankets, cleanup kits, comfort kits. We have volunteers who work behind the scenes with our staffing and make sure that the other volunteers are there to do the jobs that they need to be done. Individual caseworkers who will work one-on-one with people who need the assistance to figure out where they go next after they've lost things in a disaster.
And as you said, you provide training. So how much training would this require?
So if you want to be a volunteer with the Red Cross, we have a 3-hour orientation that we ask everyone to attend between 2 and 3 hours, and that will give you the feel for what there is. After that, 4 hours, 8 hours, it depends on how much you want to learn and how much you want to be involved. We have volunteers who are active 1 hour a year, and we consider them volunteers because when we have to open that shelter at one of the schools here, they're going to be there for us. And we have other volunteers who literally are in the office 40 hours a week.
Being prepared for a disaster is so important, both as a business and individuals, families. Let's talk about how a family, first we'll talk about that,
Okay.
can prepare to and if there's a hurricane headed their way, or if there's any other kind of disaster that might occur, how can a family prepare for that?
So there's 3 steps that we have. The first is to actually make a plan. So have a plan that you know what you're going to do if there's a storm. Are you going to leave? Is your house safe? Can you shelter in place? Are you going to leave, or are you going to go to one of the Red Cross shelters? Make sure you have a kit. Here's some items that can go into an emergency kit. Important papers, cash. ATMs may not be working. Make sure you have all your medications with you. Make sure you have all that planned. 3 days of food, we say, for minimum, food and water for hurricane season. Make sure someone outside of the area in your family knows what your plan is, so that if it is catastrophic, we know where to get in touch with you. And be informed. Know where the evacuation routes are. Know where the shelters are. Make sure you have a radio that works on batteries in case you need it. And the hurricane guides are out, and so we're going to have these available at United Way and other locations in St. Lucie County. Everything you need to know about planning for a hurricane, I think you'll find in this guide, including the list of shelters, where the evacuation routes are, and things like that.
You know, the things that you have listed on hand, all that does cost money, but I find that each week as I go to the store, I just pick up a few extra, like a few extra meals, canned meals, or a few extra gallons of water. So it's not all one big expense at once, and that gets me through the hurricane season, and I feel a little more prepared. But you're absolutely right. You really do need to have a plan. And same goes if there was a house fire. You know, where do we meet if something happens? You know, what can the kids expect? What are they going to hear? Let's talk a little bit about home prevention, fire prevention.
Right, sure. One of the things that we're doing for that is we are doing a home fire prevention campaign. We're just beginning the second year of a 5-year program. It's a national initiative, and the goal is to reduce death and injury due to home fires by 25%. We found that about only 7% of homes don't have smoke detectors, but 40% of death and injuries come within those homes that don't have them. So if you do not have a smoke detector, that is the number one thing you need to do. We are targeting areas. We will be going through St. Lucie County and installing free of charge smoke alarms. And at the same time, we'll be doing education. We'll be teaching families how to develop their plan. And we'll actually sit down and look at their house and draw the best escape plan for them, so they have it depending on where the fire is. So
how would someone contact you about that?
So if you have a neighborhood that you think needs it where we can do it, then we just call our office in Fort Pierce, and we'll get you on the list of neighborhoods to look at and to canvass. And that's how we're doing it right now. We're actually targeting neighborhoods. We're going in conjunction with the fire department and working with them. They've said here's areas where we know that there's been a lot of fires, so we're working that way.
So a homeowners association could contact you, and you could present to a group of homeowners.
Correct. Right. And we have
That's a great idea.
Right. And you know, even if there isn't a need to go in and put smoke alarms in, we'd like to come to talk about prevention and preparedness and make sure that even though they have smoke alarms, that they work and that they know what the best way to get out of the house is.
Right. Do they change the batteries?
Correct. Correct.
Right.
Correct.
That's where I fail sometimes.
I understand.
But also, we were talking a lot about prevention and a lot about preparing. You have some items there that people should have on hand. You named a few, but it's just so important to know your next step. You know, if you hear a hurricane's headed this way and it's maybe a category 4 or 5, what are you going to do? You know, have that pretty well set in your head. Let's talk about your prevention pack or your preparedness package.
Right. So we call them go kits, that everyone should just have a go kit. You know, food for 3 days. If you're evacuating, because even if you go to a shelter, we do provide meals, but we don't necessarily have meals that your kids will like or that you will like. So bring snacks. Make sure you have that. Water, you know, they say at least a gallon per person per day. If you're sheltering in place, flashlights, lanterns, batteries, extra batteries. As I mentioned before, wind up radios of some sort. Trash bags. Make sure you have trash bags for cleanup afterwards. Gloves. Make sure you have some sort of protective gloves, and rain gear. Rain gear. As we know, after 2004, there was a lot of rain. So those are just a few of the things that you want to have. And I can't stress enough the important papers, that you have those secured somewhere safe. Your insurance policies, because if something happens to your house, you're going to need your insurance policies before you can even call. So you need to make sure you have that. Titles, cash, and that kind of thing. Yeah.
You talked about local response and what's happening in St. Lucie County. Can we talk a little bit more about that and what the Red Cross does each and every day? Where people think that you respond to only disasters. national disasters, but you don't. You
Right.
respond to local
We
disasters.
do respond to local disasters. So we are the people who, the fire department, if there's a home fire, the fire department will ask the people if they would like Red Cross assistance. And as soon as they say yes, we are there, and we're mandated to be there within 2 hours of receiving the call. And we do meet. We average a fire about every 5 days. So there's certainly a lot more fires than that in St. Lucie County, but not everyone needs our services. Some people have insurance coverage or family they can go to. But we will be there to make sure that they have a place to lay their head, with a warm blanket if it's cold. We bring stuffed animals for the kids because they've lost everything, and love and care as well as meeting their physical needs.
And you provide support to military families as well.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We are mandated or chartered by Congress to provide that emergency communication that happens. So when there is an emergency, and St. Lucie County has a lot of military families. We've had 179 calls already this year that we've been able to connect people when there's been some sort of emergency. Generally, it's not good news, so it's really nice that we as Red Cross can be there with the serviceman or woman in face to face to share that news rather than them getting it over a phone call. The military requires us to do that verification. We are still the ones chartered for that, and the military will not send someone home without Red Cross verifying that there's a true emergency. We also meet with the National Guard organization and make sure the family members know what it is we do. So we call it Get to Know Us Before You Need Us. So we're working with that.
Right.
Right.
And do you have an event coming up? Because does cost money.
Right. We don't have anything scheduled right now. We've been working on just going to do outreach. We're doing something called Pillowcase Project, which is another preparedness thing that we're doing, and we're partnering with Disney, so they're supporting us financially. We have pillowcases that we give to 3rd to 5th graders, and they get to draw on them. And it mentions everything on the pillowcase that they need if there's an emergency. So, and then they get to draw whatever they want. So they put their stuffed animals and flashlights and batteries, all the things we've talked about. But it's a really good education program within our schools, and we're doing it with Boys and Girls Clubs and after-school programs that then they can bring home to their family, and luckily we haven't needed it in St. Lucie County, but in Moore, Oklahoma, there were numbers and numbers of kids who had those pillowcases and got their families to safety after the tornadoes because they'd learned that. So,
Oh, wow, that's great. That's a
right.
wonderful new program that you have.
Right.
Well, we want to thank you for being here. You've given us so much information. We want to thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions, you can call your local Red Cross or call United Way. We'll be happy to help. Thank you for joining us.